Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Adya Juneja and this is Speed News. Let's start with all the top stories making headlines today. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian slammed US for hypocritical and contradictory behavior. He said Tehran welcomes dialogue and agreement and that bad faith, siege and threats are the main obstacles to genuine negotiations. The fragile ceasefire between Iran and the US has been extended, but there is a war of blockades over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has vowed not to reopen the waterway as long as a US naval blockade remained in place, announcing seizure of 2 ships trying to cross the Strait of Hormuz. White House said US President Donald Trump does not view Iran's seizure of 2 container ships as a ceasefire violation, arguing the vessels were international and not American or Israeli. Notably, Iranian state TV shared a video purposely showing armed soldiers boarding the 2 container ships. Well, according to Iran's Revolutionary Guards, one of the seized ships, the Liberian-flagged container vessel named Ipami Nondas, was en route to India. The second ship, the Panama-flagged container MSC Francesca, was headed to Sri Lanka. Iran said it will not reopen the Strait of Hormuz as long as US naval blockade continues, with Iranian Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf saying a complete ceasefire only has meaning if it is not violated by such a blockade. US President Donald Trump said that Iran had agreed not to execute 8 women protesters in a sign of respect for him. On Truth Social, Trump said 4 of the 8 women would be released immediately and 4 would be sentenced to 1 month in prison. Tehran denied the executions had been planned and accused the US president of spreading falsehoods. Israeli strikes have killed 5 people in Lebanon, including a journalist, despite an ongoing ceasefire. Amal Khalil was covering developments near the town of Al-Tiyari with photographer Zainab Faraj when an Israeli strike hit the vehicle in front of them. They ran into a nearby house to take cover, which was then also targeted by an Israeli strike. Rescuers were able to retrieve the bodies of 2 people killed in the strike, as well as Faraj, who was seriously wounded. But Khalil remained under the rubble for 6 hours before the Lebanese Army, Civil Defense and the Lebanese Red Cross were able to return to the scene hours later. The strikes were reported on the eve of the second round of direct talks to be held between Israeli and Lebanese officials in Washington on extending the ceasefire that went into effect on Friday. The US Navy's top civilian official is leaving his job. Pentagon has announced that Secretary of the Navy John Fallon will leave office immediately without providing an explanation for the sudden exit. Fallon's departure follows the removal of top US Army Officer General Randy George and 2 other senior officers earlier this month. While in a statement on X, Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell said that Fallon is departing the administration effective immediately. He would be replaced in an acting capacity by Under Secretary Hung Kao. Fallon, a civilian who had not previously served in the military, was sworn in as Secretary of the Navy in March 2025 after being nominated by President Donald Trump in the year 2024. In West Virginia, 2 people died and approximately 20 to 30 others required medical treatment following a chemical leak at a silver catalyst plant in Kanawha County. The incident occurred during a cleaning process involving a nitric acid, creating a violent reaction. Officials at the scene, including West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection personnel, were seen conducting air quality monitoring outside the facility. The Turkish parliament voted to prevent children under the age of 15 from accessing social media platforms. Under the law, under 15s will be banned from creating accounts on social media while digital platforms will be forced to put an age verification system. Well, the vote follows in the footsteps of similar bans and proposals to limit the harms of internet use for young people, including Australia's landmark move to restrict social media to over 16s only. Turkish President Erdogan is expected to sign the legislation which was introduced by his party. German Foreign Minister Johann Vadeful welcomed the unblocking of a €90 billion loan from the European Union to Ukraine. Speaking in Dublin at a joint press conference with Irish counterpart, German Foreign Minister said that the 20th package of sanctions on Russia sends Russia a clear signal that it must not continue this war. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer insisted he would not resign, claiming allegations of misleading MPs over his appointment of Peter Mandelson as UK envoy to Washington had been put to bed. Starmer's remarks in Parliament came as he faced fresh calls to step down over his admitted error of judgment in appointing Peter Mandelson to the post. Long lines of trucks stretched outside fuel stations in El Alto, Bolivia, as the country's worsening diesel shortage left drivers waiting for hours to fill up. Bolivia has been grappling with recurring fuel shortages, and analysts say the situation is becoming increasingly difficult to manage. Analysts have pointed to surging global oil prices as a key factor complicating the crisis. The United Nations has commended Syria on its efforts to deal with nearly 300,000 people crossing its border from Lebanon since the start of the US and Israeli-led war in Iran. Well, the UN's Deputy Special Envoy for Syria welcomed the efforts to rein in terror groups, including several Hezbollah-affiliated cells, and thwarting attacks inside Syria or towards Israel. He said members of the Islamic State group remain concerned and said the continued counter-terrorism efforts of the Syrian forces and the US-led global coalition are welcomed. Pope Leo XIV pays a tightly controlled visit to Bata prison in Equatorial Guinea's biggest city. The visit comes after he launched a rare criticism of living conditions for inmates. But the pontiff urged respect for human dignity, highlighting concerns about overcrowding and justice in a country long accused of rights abuses. Phase 1 of voting is underway in West Bengal, with 152 constituencies going to the polls today. Well, the second phase will take place on April 29th, when 142 seats in and around Kolkata will vote. The ruling Trinamool Congress, led by Mamata Banerjee, is eyeing a fourth consecutive stint in power. The Bharatiya Janata Party is determined to seize power from the TMC. The counting of votes for Tamil Nadu and West Bengal, along with Assam, Kerala and the Union Territory of Puducherry, is scheduled for 4th of May. Single-phase voting is underway in Tamil Nadu for 234 constituencies. Chief Minister M.K. Stalin and his DMK-led Secular Progressive Alliance are seeking a renewed mandate, while the AIA-DMK, spearheading the National Democratic Alliance under former Chief Minister Edapadi K. Palaniswamy, is striving to regain power after 5 years in the opposition. This traditional rivalry can be shaken up with the wildcard entry of actor-turned-politician Vijay and his newly launched TVK, which has decided to contest in every seat. Indian Embassy in the US hosted the Human Cost of Terrorism exhibition, marking the first anniversary of the Pahalgam attack to expose Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. The high-profile event drew 19 US lawmakers and 60 congressional staff. The exhibition featured key addresses from Ambassador Vinay Mohan Quatra and House Foreign Affairs Committee members. Virtual testimonies from a 9/11 survivor and a Pentagon responder underscored the global toll of terror. Mexico's renowned Teotihuacan archaeological site has reopened with heavy security following a deadly shooting on April 20, 2026, a gunman rained bullets down on tourists, killing a Canadian woman and leaving at least 13 people injured, including a 6-year-old boy, at the archaeological site north of the capital. Wildfires burning across the southeastern U.S. state of Georgia forced more people to flee. The raging fires destroyed nearly 50 homes and caused some schools closing as drought and winds fueled flames. Some of the biggest blazes were near Georgia's coast, while others were popping up in northern Florida. A midday climate protest outside of Trump Tower in New York resulted in arrests of demonstrators, while the action organized by the group Extinction Rebellion was timed to mark Earth Day. In Washington, the first Asian elephant calf born at one of the national zoos nearly 25 years made a public debut on Earth Day. Born on February 2nd, Lin Mai, the infant calf, now weighs nearly 226 kilograms and stands at 40 inches tall, while hundreds of excited zoo patrons were on hand to be among the first visitors to see the Lin Mai make her debut on Earth Day. The 30th annual Art Moscow Fair has opened in Moscow after starting out as a strictly modern art event in 1996. The fair's exhibits were a wide spectre of both classical paintings and contemporary art objects. Organizers said the anniversary edition of the fair is the largest in its history, with about 200 participants, over 100 modern and antique art galleries, and the top Russian makers represented in the jewelry section. Global markets surged as optimism over the Iran ceasefire extension lifted investor sentiment worldwide. In the US, the S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite hit record highs, driven by strong tech gains and easing geopolitical fears after President Donald Trump extended the truce. Across Asia, Japan's Nikkei and South Korea's Kospi also reached all-time highs, supported by robust earnings and economic data. However, uncertainty remains as tensions persist around Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, keeping investors cautious despite the rally. Oil prices have jumped sharply as doubts grow over the stability of the Iran-US ceasefire. Crude surged around 4%, with Brent and crude climbing after Iran said it would not reopen the Strait of Hormuz, while a US naval blockade remains in place. Prices have stayed elevated since the conflict began, with markets reacting to fears that fighting could resume despite ceasefire efforts. The US President Donald Trump has extended the truce to allow more time for talks, reportedly brokered by Pakistan. However, uncertainty persists as Iran signals caution, keeping global energy markets on edge. Gold prices edged higher after a recent dip as investors stepped in to buy at lower levels. Spot gold rose about 0.5% after hitting a one-week low, supported by bargain hunting and cautious sentiment ahead of potential US-Iran talks. Analysts say the rebound follows sharp losses earlier in the week. Geopolitical tensions remain a key driver, with fresh concerns around the Strait of Hormuz and ongoing uncertainty after statements from US President Donald Trump on the blockade and ceasefire timeline. Well, despite the uptick, gold has fallen significantly since the conflict began, as rising oil prices fuel inflation fears and weigh on demand for the non-yielding metals. YouTube has complied with Indonesia's new social media rules for users under 16 after previously being warned by authorities for non-compliance. Indonesia's communications minister said the platform has submitted a formal letter confirming its compliance with the regulations. Under the new law, social media companies must deactivate accounts belonging to users below the age of 16 on high-risk platforms. Well, YouTube has now updated its policies, raising the minimum age to 16 and announcing plans to remove accounts linked to underage users. The company also said it will stop targeted advertising for children and teenagers in the future. Microsoft has announced plans to integrate advanced AI models, including Cloud Mythos Preview, into its secure coding framework to strengthen cybersecurity. The company said these models will be embedded into its security development lifecycle, helping engineers identify software vulnerabilities early and develop fixes faster. Mythos, developed by Anthropic, has already detected thousands of security flaws across operating systems, web browsers, and other softwares. According to cybersecurity experts, its advanced coding capabilities also give it the ability to identify and potentially exploit weaknesses, making it a powerful but sensitive tool. Global coffee companies and traders in US have launched a new system to track deforestation linked to coffee farming. Well, the initiative, called the Coffee Canopy Partnership, will use satellite imagery and artificial intelligence to map coffee farms and detect nearby forest losses. The aim is to improve land identification, support forestry restoration, and prevent future deforestation in coffee-growing regions. The program will begin in East Africa, covering countries like Ethiopia, Kenya, and Uganda, with plans to expand globally by the year 2027. The move comes ahead of new European Union rules that will ban coffee linked to recent deforestation from entering EU markets. Neymar has been acquitted in the corruption case linked to his transfer to Barcelona. Spain's Supreme Court has upheld an earlier ruling clearing Neymar and former Barcelona officials of all charges related to the 2013 deal. The case was brought by Brazilian firm DIS, which claimed it lost money from the transfer. But the court found no evidence of corruption or fraud, calling it a purely sporting decision by Barcelona. Pakistan cricketer Mohammad Nawaz has been placed under investigation by the country's board after he tested positive for a recreational drug. Recreational drugs are psychoactive substances and can include alcohol, nicotine, cannabis, and various synthetic compounds. Well, according to the reports, the positive test result emerged from routine screening conducted during the World Cup earlier this year. Nawaz featured in all 7 of Pakistan's matches and picked up 7 wickets before the team was eliminated in the Super 8 stage. A Lego set inspired by the film Project Hail Mary has set a new Guinness World Record title after being launched into the space or the stratosphere and safely returned to Earth. The set achieved the record for the highest altitude launch and retrieval of a Lego set, reaching 34,988 meters above sea level. Guinness World Record confirmed in a press release. The set, which includes minifigures of Project Hail Mary, characters Ryan and Grace, and the alien Rocky, was launched from Gwynedd County in the UK. An official Guinness World Record certificate was later presented to the film's team. Celebrated Indian filmmaker Payal Kapadia has been appointed as the president of the jury for the 65th edition of Critics Week at the 2026 Cannes Film Festival. The parallel section of the festival, which highlights debut and sophomore feature films, will run from May 13th to May 21. Kapadia's appointment comes after a highly successful win at Cannes in 2024, where she won the Grand Prix award for her feature All We Imagine as Light. After years of development, the highly anticipated biopic of late icon Madhubala is officially moving forward with Sara Arjun in the lead role. Fresh off a success in the Dhurandhar franchise, Arjun will reportedly undergo an extensive physical and stylistic transformation for the role. Well, that was it in speed, but don't go anywhere. Central banks are now major players in the global gold market. Central banks are now sitting on massive stockpiles of gold after years of record purchases. In this next report, we look at the gold holding milestones for a better understanding. Thank you so much for watching WION World this one. Stay tuned.